by telling us about your superhero origin story. How did you get into STEM? How were you bitten by the bug of robotics and electronics? How did all of that come about?
I was really inspired by my little sister, Bree. My little sister, she's honestly pushed me into the direction that I am now, especially through her interests and her passions. When we were younger, we were actually homeschooled for most of our life. And she was interested in like robots and science and things like that. But a lot of the resources were inaccessible to us. They were very expensive. An educational robot that was required for a program was $500. It just wasn't something that was accessible for my family. And it was really discouraging because I saw a lot of kids, they were able to get ahead. And there's a lot of tech educational gaps that affect Indigenous communities. Everything from Wi-Fi access. A lot of Indigenous communities are in rural areas and cannot access the internet. There's things like lack of representation, lack of funding, and we definitely felt a lot of that. And it was a struggle. So it made me want to come up with ideas and solve a problem, even though I had no idea what to do because I was like 10. And one day I was at Costco, which is like a large like chain store, and I saw animal puppets on the shelf, like a kit of a set of them. I don't know. And I remember it gave me the idea to start teaching an animal like science class. I remember pulling my mom aside and I'm like, I'll teach the class. I'll draw the coloring sheets. I'll do whatever, right? And she's like, dude, you're 10, like whoa, calm down, But I ended up teaching a semester long kindergarten class for 25 kindergartners. And that was such an interesting experience. I learned like, don't feed kids sugar, when you're teaching them. I learned a lot, and I learned that I had a passion for education and for science and tech, and that there was more that I could do to solve the problems that I saw around me than I thought. And so I started teaching at that age, and my little sisters who made me interested in robots. And then when I got to public school in high school, sorry, my headphones, I joined a robotics team. And I admire robotics. Like I had admired robotics teams for a long time. I'd seen their stuff online. I'm like, I want to do that. I got there. I was one of the only girls, and I got bullied off the team.
Mm.
It was one of the most hostile environments I've ever been in. I was stalked with drones. And so to have all those things happen, and then now as an adult, hearing my students talk about the same thing is very scary. And so I had that team, I had to leave. I joined another, and the same thing happened again. So I founded my organization, the STEAM Connection, to provide safe STEM learning environments for Indigenous students, especially girls, so that they could learn about what they wanted to for free.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of, when you hit that adversity, what kind of kept you going on the STEM route despite all of that? Why didn't you just be like, oh, screw this noise, I'm out of here?
That's kind of a hard question to answer because like I definitely felt like giving up a lot. And I even like go public school and all those things, have a learning disability. So like being in those spaces, I was like, I didn't really feel like I belonged, and in many ways I didn't. I did a lot of community outreach as a part of being on robotics teams. I started 20 community programs during my senior year to teach kids about STEM, and I started 18 robotics teams. And so my students are who kept me going through that and who pushed me to see like, oh, here are the results. Here's what happens when you teach STEM. Here's what happens and how it can change their lives. And I had seen it within my sister, who's now pursuing a teaching degree, by the way. I saw it within so many people. And I was like, I need to keep going, even though it's not always a happy or beautiful thing, like being in those spaces. You have to create that beauty.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm sorry you had that experience. It is completely unsurprising to me.
Unfortunately, me too.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's so important to have an anti-gatekeeping approach to STEM education and to never never assume that because somebody is new that they don't have the aptitude for it, you know?
Yeah, I think it's even more than that. I just think like there's a lot of stereotypes, especially about Indigenous people in science and tech. A lot of people don't realize that we have always been inventors and engineers and scientists. We've always been creating things, designing things. We've always been at the forefront of this knowledge. And to be kind of kept out of that and for people to tell us that we're not meant for this, it can be very discouraging, especially when a lot of this knowledge has been brought to us by women. And so it's kind of sad to see the opposite of that now in society, and especially in many spaces like robotics competitions, like hackathons, like things like that, maker cons and all those things. Like it doesn't feel very fair to enter these spaces and not see yourself represented and not see your students represented. It's very discouraging, and I think that it should change soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could not agree more.